Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are taking a journey into, well, honestly, one of the most absurd, shocking, and ultimately devastating fraud cases in British history. We're going to unpack an unbelievable, true story that sounds like it was literally ripped straight from a Hollywood thriller. But you know what? Every single detail actually happened. We're going to look at the evidence, the timeline, and the sheer audacity of a man who decided the best way to solve his problems was to just simply cease to exist. Now, I want to hook you immediately by setting the scene here. Picture this, it's December 1st, 2007. A man walks into a busy London police station. He's looking kind of disheveled, confused, and he walks right up to the front desk and delivers this totally baffling statement. He says, "I think I am a missing person," right? He claims to have total amnesia. He tells them he found a passport in his pocket with the name John Jones, but he has absolutely zero idea who he is, where he comes from, or where he's been for the last several years. And this single bizarre moment, it sparks a mystery that would soon captivate the entire nation. Part 1. The Man with No Memory. Okay, let's dive into this. Because the moment the police actually uncover his identity, the story goes from strange to just utterly unbelievable. So he walks in claiming amnesia, holding this John Jones passport. Standard procedure, right? The police run his fingerprints, and when the results pop up on the officer's screen, the dramatic irony is just off the charts. Because those fingerprints, they don't belong to a John Jones. They are a perfect match for a guy named John Darwin. Now, John Darwin was a former teacher and a prison officer from Prudhoe, Northumberland. But there was one massive, glaring problem. John Darwin had been officially declared dead 5 years earlier. So the man standing in front of them wasn't a missing person at all. He was, quite literally, a dead man walking. Part 2. Faking death in a canoe. So how on earth does a dead man walk into a police station? Well, to answer that, we've got to pivot back to the early 2000s and look at exactly why and how a seemingly normal, everyday guy decided to completely erase his own existence.
The answer, as it so often is, comes down to a staggering sum of money, specifically £250,000. By the early 2000s, John and his wife Anne were absolutely drowning in financial trouble. I mean, they had racked up £64,000 in credit card debt and loans, on top of a £130,000 mortgage. John's property investments were failing miserably. He felt totally trapped, terrified by the looming humiliation of bankruptcy. So rather than facing the music, John and Anne plotted this insane life insurance fraud. Their target? A massive £250,000 payout that would wipe their slate completely clean.
The plan they came up with was brilliantly simple, yet utter madness. Step 1. John rows his red canoe out into the unforgiving North Sea. Step 2. Abandon the canoe so it looks like a tragic accident. Step 3. Anne plays the grieving widow and collects the life insurance money. And Step 4. John disappears forever using that meticulously crafted fake passport under the name John Jones. On paper, it was a clean, 4-step process to a brand new life. So, they put this whole thing into motion on March 21st, 2002. It was a cold, gray morning. John paddled his red canoe out into the sea off the coast of Seaton Carew, and when he didn't return, a massive search and rescue operation was launched. We're talking 5 rescue boats, helicopters scouring the freezing waters. Eventually, they found his red canoe just drifting empty. They found his paddle floating in the waves, but they didn't find John. And that's because John wasn't in the water. No, he was already safely back on dry land, completely fine, while this huge search raged on without him. Part 3. Hiding in plain sight. Now, what's really interesting about this next part is that it introduces the most absurd, darkly comedic, and frankly chilling twist of this entire case. What we are looking at here is a textbook case of pseudocide, which is the act of faking one's own death. Now, usually when someone commits pseudocide, they flee to a tropical island, right? Or they move to a remote cabin totally off the grid. But not John Darwin. John executed the most audacious, high-risk hiding spot you could possibly imagine. John actually lived in a secret room right next door to his own family home. Yeah, you heard that right. The Darwins actually owned the adjoining property, and John just moved into it, using a hidden internal passage to slip back and forth between the houses. The spatial proximity here is just cinematic in its strangeness. He was literally a few feet away. He actually watched his own memorial service happen around him. He listened through the plaster walls as his own 2 sons, Mark and Anthony, wept and grieved for the father they thought had just drowned. And while John was hiding behind the wall, there was a stark, crazy contrast in Anne's behavior. Publicly, she played the grieving widow. I mean, giving Oscar-worthy performances to the press, accepting condolences, and seamlessly collecting that huge payout. But privately, she was the co-conspirator, secretly sending warm, loving, flirtatious emails to her dead husband sitting in the room literally right next door. It is a staggering double life, and as you'll see in a minute, prosecutors would later use these exact emails to completely destroy her defense.
Part 4. The Panama photograph mistake. Okay, fast forward to 2006. The Darwins have successfully pulled off the impossible. They have the money, they haven't been caught. But they got ambitious. They planned a permanent escape to Central America, and that ambition is exactly what led to their absolute doom.
Just look at the sheer length of this lie. 5 whole years. By 2006, they are scouting property in Panama, getting ready to vanish for good. But the psychological pressure of hiding in the shadows for half a decade had severely worn John down. He missed his sons, he was restless. And it was that immense pressure that eventually pushed him to execute that desperate amnesia stunt in London in 2007. He was basically hoping he could just re-enter society with a blank slate. Like, oh, I forgot everything, let's start over.
So the crucial point is, how did the police know he was lying about the amnesia? Well, it all came down to a single photograph. Back in 2006, while scouting that property in Panama, they made one catastrophic, unforced error. They posed for a picture. A smiling couple in a real estate office, standing side by side, John and Anne. And miraculously, honestly, what are the odds? A member of the public doing a random web search actually found this photograph hosted right there on the Panamanian real estate agency's website. The fallout was absolute, and it was immediate. While John was sitting in police custody pretending he didn't even know his own name, this photo went wildly viral in the UK press overnight. And you just cannot claim you've had amnesia since 2002 when there is a time-stamped photo of you smiling in Panama in 2006. It doesn't work. Anne Darwin was arrested within days. Once the police had her devices, all those secret, flirtatious emails and the hidden financial records were exposed. A lie that took 5 years to carefully maintain collapsed entirely in a matter of weeks.
Part 5. The devastating human cost. Now, it's really easy to look at this case as some bizarre, darkly comedic caper, but we need to execute a hard pivot right here, because the reality is much, much darker. We have to talk about the actual victims of this plot. For 5 years, Mark and Anthony Darwin grieved a father who was living on the other side of their bedroom wall. The sheer devastation these two men experienced, it's hard to even fathom. They were lied to every single day, to their faces, by their own mother. They held a memorial. They carried the agonizing weight of that loss, completely unaware that they were just pawns in their parents' financial scheme. When the truth finally broke, the betrayal was so deep that the sons initially refused absolutely all contact with both of their parents.
And as you might expect, the justice system was not amused by their little theater. John Darwin, knowing he was dead to rights, pleaded guilty to fraud and received 6 years and 3 months. Anne, however, pleaded not guilty. She claimed marital coercion, basically arguing that John forced her to do it. But, remembering those flirtatious emails we talked about earlier? Yeah, the jury didn't buy her defense for a single second. It took them just 4 hours to convict her on 15 counts of fraud and money laundering. She actually received a slightly longer sentence than John, 6 years and 6 months.
Detective Inspector Andy Greenwood, who led the investigation, perfectly captured the sentiment in the courtroom. He called Anne a compulsive liar and found her willingness to put her own sons through 5 years of psychological torture for financial gain absolutely appalling. And I think that's the thing. The callousness required to maintain that lie to your own children's faces is really what elevates this from a quirky financial crime to a deeply, deeply cruel one.
So, what is the aftermath of all this? Well, both were released from prison in 2011, having divorced while behind bars. And here is the ultimate irony of the canoe man's grand plan. By 2015, the authorities had successfully confiscated the entire £250,000. Think about that. They destroyed their family, spent years hiding in a secret room, went to prison, and ended up with absolutely none of the money. Today, John lives in the Philippines with a new wife, 33 years his junior, forever chasing reinvention. Anne lives a very low-profile life, carrying deep public regret. And miraculously, the sons eventually found a path to forgive Anne, but their relationship with John remains totally shattered.
Which brings us to our final thought.
In today's hyper-connected world of digital footprints, smartphone tracking, and facial recognition at every airport and street corner, could the canoe man have survived even a week, let alone 5 years? It's fascinating to think that this astonishing crime might actually represent a bygone era. A bizarre anomaly that could likely never happen again. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.